folk horror seems to be like the one subgenre that you're allowed to just completely throw away that 3-act template.
So how many people have already seen this? Nobody!
Yay!
Yes!
It was also great to see the Johnny Ramone-looking guy taking a shit in the woods.
Yay, welcome. We all know the rules by now, don't we? We are back at Gateway Film Center doing it live, what we do once a month, and glad to do it. This is the Fright Club podcast, and she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're from madwolf.com, and we are talking about international folk horror. We got a great slice of that tonight, and I think we've said before how much we just love folk horror in general.
Yes.
So we'll get into the international side of that. But first, we want to say thanks to everybody that enjoyed, as we do every year, last episode, Skeletons in the Closet.
Yes, this is like every year we look forward to this. And it's funny, I think that we watch the Oscar nominations broadcast differently than most people do, because right away I'll be like, oh my God, he made so many bad movies. And then we just put this podcast together, and it's like my favorite thing to do, to parse through, especially when there are some, that I haven't seen. Like I'll dig into somebody and think, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, because...
And then I'll just watch these awful horror movies. And one of the things that's great about it is just to know these people went on to be such great actors.
Right. And normally, every other month of the podcast, we celebrate good movies.
Right,
so it's
exactly.
the one time of the year we have fun digging into the bad stuff.
Right.
But knowing that they went on to great careers and having their work Oscar nominated. So it is fun to dig into some of that stuff. And it seems like everybody enjoys it every year. So thank you for that feedback. And you can, speaking of the Oscars, just last night, we guested on one of our favorite podcasts called Whiskey Business, hosted by Dino Tripodis from here in town. And we've done it now for about 5 years. It's the Oscar Picks podcast, where we go on there and try to seem like we know what we're talking about and pick the Oscar winners. So that was a lot of fun. Yes, we did drink some whiskey. Even Hope drank some whiskey, which is crazy. Yeah.
I neglected to bring any Diet Pepsi with me, so there you go. I got thirsty.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what really happened. Dino assured me that he was going to have some Diet Pepsi on hand because he does know Hope, so he knows you have to have some. And I said, well, he said he would have some. And she, being the trusting soul that she is, went along with that, and he had zero Diet Pepsi.
No Diet Pepsi.
But it was a lot of fun. We had a great conversation.
Ginger ale.
We had a great conversation about this year's Oscars and some other stuff, too. So that should be coming out fairly soon. Again, it's called Whiskey Business, and we'll post some links once we get it. But that's always a lot of fun to guest on that episode. And, of course, we had him, one of our favorite Fright Clubs from back in the day. He guested with us as we did I think it's the only time we've taken a deep dive into one movie on the podcast. And we talked about The Bride of Frankenstein. Show your purse.
It's an all-time favorite of ours.
Yeah.
The Bride of Frankenstein, and we spent a full 30 minutes talking with Dino Tripodis about that movie, and that was super fun. We should do another one like that, where we just talk
dig into
about,
one movie?
Yeah, just talk about one movie.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so
that's coming up soon, that Oscar Whiskey Business. Today we've got folk horror business and just the international side. Do you want to talk about any that almost made the list? We've got a top 5, correct?
We do have a top 5. And one of the inspirations for this was, if you haven't watched it yet, you really should, the documentary Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched. My God, did we love that documentary. It's on Shudder. It's 3 hours of just giddy, excellent horror movie documentary geekiness. It's so great. It's 3 hours long. They're very thorough. They cover lots and lots of things. But one of the things that occurred to us was that there are so many that there are a ton that they didn't cover. And in looking into doing something, because we wanted to just sort of have a reason to geek out about that movie, Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, we thought, well, they didn't do much in terms of foreign language horror. So as international horror goes, really the sort of folk horror movies kind of got popular in England, which of course is international to us. So we focused primarily on foreign language. And a couple of the ones that we'll talk about, you saw glimpsed. There was like an image or two images, but they didn't really discuss any of these. So we thought that they were well worth discussing.
Yeah, but again, we can't recommend this documentary enough. Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched on Shudder. you say 3-hour movie, but trust me, it doesn't feel like
No.
it. It's so entertaining, so informative, just flies by, and you really end up wanting another edition.
Yes.
A sequel, I guess, where they talk about some other movies that they didn't get to. Because it's a great subject.
It is. And there are a few that we're not going to talk about that we highly recommend that you look for. One from Colombia is called Luz.
Flower
of Evil. It's just amazing. It's just beautiful. It's this coming of age, weird sort of, they live in this village that kind of, it's modern times, but they didn't evolve with modern times. It's super spooky and creepy. Really, really loved that one. There's another one from Guatemala called La Llorona. So don't confuse it with The Curse of La Llorona or the upcoming something about La Llorona. This one is out of Guatemala. I know. My Sharona. Don't confuse it with any of those. And this is like, it takes that folk tale about the crying demon woman and it contextualizes it with war. And it was really, really well done. And I love that one a lot. And another one from Malaysia from 2019 is called Roh, R-O-H. You can also find it under Soul, although that's a little bit harder because there are like 500 movies called Soul. So you might have a better time finding it under R-O-H from Malaysia. Another one that kind of takes place in the woods, as all good creepy stories do.
Right.
So those were all really good. Highly recommend. Just didn't make the final 5.
Okay, fair enough. But we've got a good 5, and of course we're going to show one of them here on the big screen tonight, and it's so beautiful, and we'll get to that here in a minute. Of course, we won't talk about it much because we don't want to spoil anything. We won't talk about it till after. But let's start at number 5, and this is from 1967. This one's from Russia, so clearly we're not taking part in any boycotts here on Fright Club, but a young priest is ordered to preside over the wake of a witch in a small old wooden church of a remote village, and this means spending 3 nights alone with the corpse with only his faith to protect him. It's called V. Spending 3 nights alone with the corpse. Now, a premise like that always reminds me of when they set us up with the Annabelle doll right before the last Annabelle movie came out so we could take it on our TV gig. If you didn't know, we're on Good Day Columbus every Friday morning, so they wanted us to take the doll. So we had it in our house, and it stayed overnight with us. And we told some people that, and they just freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, they did.
Like, you had that doll in your house? Yeah.
So we just posted all over the place and like took pictures and texted them to my sisters who were like freaking out and everything. It was fun.
But this is something else.
It is.
This is
totally
spending
different.
3 nights alone with the corpse, and as you can tell by the trailer, special effects maybe not the strong suit here, but that's okay. It looks super creepy.
It did. This is a really fun movie, and one of the things I like about this movie, which I think speaks to in a way some of the themes of folk horror, is that so you have this seminarian who's clearly not really got much faith. He and his other 2 seminarian friends just get plowed one night, get lost in the woods, and they have to, like an old sort of creepy joke, they have to ask this farmer if they can sleep in their barn because they're too drunk to figure out where they're going. She's this old lady, and she makes them split up, so they're not sleeping in the same room at all. And that's where this whole thing starts. Bad things happen. He runs back to church to find that he's been summoned for this gig, right? And he doesn't know why. But basically, I think the theme of this, which is a theme that runs through this, is that if you are a peasant, you are just fucking screwed. You got no shot, right? Because the authority, the church, they don't care. If you don't do what the church tells you, he tells this poor guy, I will just beat you up. I'll just beat you in the public. You have no choice but to do what the government or rich people tell you to do. Same thing happens. If he does what he's told, he's going to get money. If he doesn't do what he's told, he's going to be whipped in public. And then there's this supernatural evil that you can't predict, and that's your best bet. Like that's your safest bet. And I think that's for me one of the most interesting things about so much folk horror is it's just like these are the people who wrote it, right? These are the people who came up with the stories, the ones who were just we are fucked no matter what we do. And I just think. Yeah, that's scary. Like that's a scary idea to be the root of your horror.
Yeah, and even though some of the sequences, especially the flying, the levitating, a little shaky, but it still manages to come up with some really creepy sequences and set pieces in this movie.
Yeah, 100% does. And one of the things is he which this always gets to me. He can't fall asleep, right? He's got to really watch out all the night long because this woman is clearly going to come back, get up and kill him, and that that just makes me so unhappy when I watch a movie. Like, oh God, I would die. I'd be murdered right away.
She enjoys sleeping.
I like sleeping.
She does.
I like sleeping.
And that is number 5 on our list of international folk horror from 1967 V. Moving up to number 4, and this is the movie we're going to show tonight, so we're not going to speak much about it. This is from 2017. In a poor Estonian village, a group of peasants use magic and folk remedies to survive the winter, and a young woman tries to get a young man to love her. This is November.
Ma tahan olla tema naine.
Issand Jeesus Kristus, Jumala poeg. Ei taha.
So how many people have already seen this? Nobody!
Yay!
Yes!
Yay!
Has that ever happened before?
Yeah. It has.
Usually
Well,
we have like at least
the last
one or two.
horror movie. No one had seen the last horror movie.
Last horror movie,
Mhm.
you're right. Well, this
I
is
don't think
awesome.
they've seen One of the Dead either.
Well, then we hope that when we're done here, you come down and give us your thoughts, because we would love to get you on the podcast. We don't want to spoil anything, but if you were watching the trailer and you wondered, was that Dieter Laser? Yes, it is, and this is his last film.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
so saucy in it.
Last film for Dieter Laser.
I love a saucy Dieter Laser.
That is all we will say about that, because we're going to see it here pretty soon.
1 hour and 55 minutes of weirdness later.
Okay, welcome back to our podcast about underpants in horror. Not just underpants, but horny underpants. That's a head trip.
What did you think?
Yes?
One person
Yes?
liked it. It's a weird one.
It is a weird one.
I think the opening with the cow, I remember thinking to myself the first time, like, did they just kill that cow? And that I was so relieved when they didn't kill the cow that I thought, all right, I'm in. Like, I'm just in now. It's a very unusual film.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's probably been adopted by the tourism department of Estonia to try to get some people to come over.
It is beautiful, though.
It is.
It
No, it really
won
is.
Tribeca Film Festival Award for Best Cinematography. It is a
Yeah.
gorgeous, gorgeous movie.
It really
and
is.
it's one that like a lot of the ones we talked about tonight, blends, like actual Catholicism and superstition. And I love that in this just one little village, there's the devil, also werewolf. Okay.
Yeah.
The plague, a shape-shifting plague, and then just I don't know, ghosts, starvation.
And by the way, why didn't we think to try to defeat a plague by putting pants on our head?
I don't know.
We spent this last couple of years and nobody tried that.
That is crazy. We're also just shooting things with the communion host.
Yeah.
I had no idea
Yeah.
how effective that could be. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it really makes me curious about the source novel, because I bet that's wild. But you're right. Above all else, it is beautiful to look at. It's
a
another
gorgeous
reminder
movie,
that we saw many films this past year that were beautiful in black and white, and here's another one. It can be shot right, and with the right lighting, black and white cinematography, it can just be so striking.
One of the other things that I love when a film employs clearly non-actors and makes that work. Some of these people were so incredibly endearing, but it was just enough oddness, like the two at the very beginning who were going to go pick flowers for a wreath and get slapped. That woman is my favorite person in this entire movie. I just kept waiting for her to show up again. I'm like, there she is with her silly hat. I love this lady.
And how about the dental work too?
Yeah, not a lot of dentists in the village.
Not a lot. Anybody have some thoughts? You want to come down and you want to tell us start to finish what it all meant? Break it all down with the subtext. Alexander, I know you're up to the task.
I agree with both of you. I can see why this won an award for cinematography. It was just so gorgeous to look at. Like, some of these images I would like framed, like, and hung on in my house or something. I really like how it blends in with, like, the intense moments and the comedic moments, and just how absurd it was back then.
Yeah,
Very
I
absurd.
agree with you.
Very absurd, yeah.
You're right. I thought it was, it's got to be a weird tone to find. It's sad, it's a romance, but there are just these incredibly absurd moments, and it all worked together, I thought, really well.
So I was not expecting krats, whatever they were, to be alive. And So that was surprising, but the more I watched it, the more I was thinking of, like, David Lynch and Jim Jarmusch got together and directed an Estonian film, and it worked.
No wonder we love it.
Exactly.
You're speaking her language now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the Kratts I thought were so fascinating, and I love too the different ones that the different farmers would build and what it says about who they were. Because at the end, the snowman, like, what a lovely idiotic choice, because it's gonna melt. But you know, what a great Kratt he made for that one day.
Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Gabriel. I really enjoyed the film. Second time here, last time Dead Snow. Here with my friends and thought, never disappointed, really.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wanted to say that some of these things were great, like the Kratts, like it was said. It was also great to see the Johnny Ramone looking guy taking a shit in the woods.
That's my new favorite quote, the Johnny Ramone looking guy taking a shit in the woods.
Nice. I love the specific Ramone reference, because you're right, it was Johnny who had that haircut.
Oh, yeah.
Yet another weirdly perverse, entertaining fairy tale / morals tape. Words fail me sometimes. The cinematography, especially that one scene with the two lovers in the woods, and the lighting that's the one that he was talking about. That needs to be framed. And they were so in love, and they were so stupid.
Right. Yep.
Kids are stupid. We've said it many times.
Kids are stupid. I love, I think for me one of the most striking images was both times somebody went to the crossroads to call Satan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that moment before he shows up, it was just like, it's so beautiful. And what a weird Satan. You know, like, because we've done before countdowns the best on-screen Satans, and he deserved at least a mention. Because what a weird one.
Very, very weird. And you know, all of a sudden when it's time to pay the piper,
yep,
and it's over. Yeah, it's really weird and strangely, well, I heard everybody laughing throughout,
yeah.
and rightly so, because it's so absurd.
It is. It's strangely funny. Well, again, when Satan, you know, when he doesn't know it's blood, it's not blood. He doesn't know it's the currents. The scene where he's, you know, I love that idea. It's like you think the director says, okay, here's what we're going to put a big piece of plexiglass over the lens,
yeah,
and just lick it, and then spit on it, and that's what audience will look at. Like, ah.
Yeah.
I've seen Satan's tongue.
And as we said, Dieter Laser. And his final film.
That's right. Very dandy, as you said. He's a very dandy Dieter Laser. That I love that hat.
He was so
dandy. Much. And
yeah.
the one outfit, am I wrong? Was it kind of Elvis? Did the one outfit have a very Elvis vibe about it, which I'm all for?
I kept thinking Estonian nudie suit.
Okay.
Yeah, the nudie suits from the old time country stars. Yeah, I can see that. But especially that hat, very dandy.
And I loved his little smile, like such a bizarre performance.
Mm-hmm.
And like the little wave, I thought, what is that about? What do you have to be happy for? They've stolen your underpants.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
When they asked why are they spitting out the communion host, I think that was it, just the one line.
Yeah, and he just has such a weird face.
He does have a weird face.
Just a weird looking face. You always expect him to sew people together ass to mouth. Or is that just me? Well, I'm glad you all enjoyed it, because that's one of the ones where you think, I don't know. Yeah. It's just so weird. But it helps by being so beautiful to look at.
So beautiful to look at, yeah. I was excited to see it on a big screen. I had not before, so I was excited to see it.
Oh, and definitely worthy of a big screen. So thank you. Great comments tonight. I was hoping we'd get some, and we did. And by the way, if anybody didn't get a Fright Club button and would want one, come on down. We got plenty. So that's number 4. So let's move up to number 3. And this is also from 2017. Boy, that was a good year for folk horror, wasn't it? Because this was one of our favorites of the year that year. Paranoia and Superstition in 15th century Europe. This is Hagazusa.
I love that movie so much. I will show that at some point. We've been trying for a long time to get that movie, and at some point, I promise you, we'll see it. It is a gorgeous movie that really deserves to be seen on the big screen. The other thing that's so great, the sound design in this movie is absolutely just hypnotic. It's glorious. And as I was saying about folk horror, a lot of times it really is focused on how just people who live off the land, just the peasant, and how difficult their lives are. This movie zeroes in on something that feels very much even more authentic, is it how hard life was in the 15th century for women, in particular outcast women. And this movie is so like alarming. It gets under your skin so much in a really sort of dreamy way, and this, I think, is also true of folk horror. You cannot figure out where it's going. You just can't. Like, folk horror seems to be like the one subgenre that you're allowed to just completely throw away that 3-act template. You don't even have to try to be predictable because these forces aren't. So why create like a path that makes sense when they would veer off the path anyway? I think, and this is this man, and I can't remember his name. I'm sure I have it written down. The filmmaker. This is his first film, which killed me.
Not only his first film, it was his graduation film.
That's insane.
Lucas Feigefeld.
It's amazing. It's just an amazing movie, and I'm really eager to get a chance to watch it with a big group of people.
You're right about the sound design. It looks beautiful, and even though, of course, for American audiences, it has subtitles, it strikes me as a movie you could turn them off and still have an experience with it, because so much of it is visual storytelling, and it does what so many of these great folk horror movies do. It strips everything down so your existence is so bare that it gets to very primal fears, which is always in the woods. Seems like it's always in the woods.
It is for me.
But that and not sleeping. Very primal fears, and this was such a great example of that. Loved this. Remember when it came out the first night we watched it? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Loved
Yeah, it's
this movie.
such a great movie. So I want to say look it up, and then I want to say, don't. Just come back and watch it with us at some point.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be on the schedule soon. So that is number 3 from 2017. Germany's Hagazusa. We got to get moving because we got a movie to show. This is from 2016, number 2. Soon after a stranger arrives in a little village, a mysterious sickness starts spreading. A policeman drawn into the incident is forced to solve the mystery in order to save his daughter. From Korea, The Wailing. Come on! This is one that breaks the template a little bit because it's not medieval. It's set in more, as you can see, present day. And I think this one is about 3 hours, too. This is a long, but don't let that throw you off because it's such absorbing storytelling. Also weirdly funny in spots. Mm-hmm. But, man, I love the story.
Yeah, it's really great. It's filmmaker Na Hong Jin who did The Chaser a couple of years before this one, which is also a great movie. This movie throws everything at you. Of course, it has the time to do it, but there's ghosts, there's the devil, there's zombies, there are boils. There are a lot of boils. So many boils.
There's a topic right there.
That's right.
For another podcast. Boils in horror. Write it down.
I'm writing it down. Boils. And again, I think something that you find more often in folk horror than you do anyplace else is that they blur the line between established religion and superstition. Actually, you can find that in almost all the movies we're going to talk about, is that like why that the film doesn't give more credence to one over the other. They all kind of live together and affect our lives in spooky ways that we are somewhat powerless against. And that certainly is on display in this movie, which, as you say, it is a long movie, but it is utterly fascinating, every moment of it, and it's incredibly unpredictable, partly because of the way it does. Like, just toss in all of these supernatural elements, and you just see where they go. And they go to a bloody, bloody place.
Yeah, and according to the director, this movie was made on the basis of folk religions in Korea and Nepal and on Catholic faiths. Either directly or indirectly, it gets around to mentioning all the biblical sins, and I love it. There's a white woman who collects upper body belongings from villagers to protect them, and then there's a Japanese man who collects lower body belongings, like shoes, to curse them. So yeah, isn't that just creepy to hear about? That is so very cool, and that's from 2016. The Wailing, number 2 on our international folk horror list. So let's make it up to number 1, and this is from just last year. One of our favorites from last year. Focuses on a childless couple, Maria and Ingvar, discovering a mysterious newborn on their farm in Iceland. The unexpected prospect of family life brings them much joy before ultimately destroying them. It's Lamb.
Terkipap. Met de dier.
lot of people didn't love this movie.
We did.
We loved this movie. We loved this movie. I loved everything about this movie. Valdemar Johansson is the filmmaker, writer-director. And I remember when we watched it, I mean, we were like sad that we hadn't timed, because we wouldn't have known to, how long you go in this movie before somebody actually says anything. Because you're on this working farm in utterly gorgeous, incredibly sort of isolated Iceland. And they're working a farm. They're giving, they're like birthing animals, and they're cutting shit down, and they're riding on tractors. And I think that really grounds this fairy tale in something very tangibly earthy and realistic. And it was an incredible way to do that. It's a gorgeous movie to look at.
It is.
It's so beautiful. And then one of the other things that struck me as I was watching it, so they have a child who died at some point in the past before the movie starts, and then they take this lamb in, because this lamb is unusual, so they raise this lamb. And one of the things that struck me is how, this is maybe weird to think, it made me think of Eraserhead.
Oh, I don't think that's weird at all. This movie reminded you of Eraserhead.
Very different response that these new parents had to this sort of animal baby, And one of the things that just killed me about this movie is how adorable this lamb was in her little yellow coat. Oh my God, she was so cute. So that when you thought the uncle had like bad motives, like you were going, no, like I thought, I can't even, just please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Which I thought was an incredibly powerful feat of this director, to get you this invested in this unusual character.
Yeah, and according to the director, he started with the idea of that lamb-human hybrid. That just was the start. Maybe it watched Eraserhead. I don't know. And then built the story around that. This is the first film where Noomi Rapace, the star, speaks in Icelandic. And she lived in Iceland as a child, so she knew the language, which helped. And you could tell she also worked a farm, because they're really doing those chores and birthing those animals, which adds to the authenticity of it. And it is the highest-grossing motion picture in the history of Icelandic cinema.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Well, we loved it, too.
We loved it, too.
Also, you know what, though? I mean, I think a lot of people, because it's classified as a horror film, and it takes a while for it to get there, it's just very weird. And then in the end, but it really does strike me as a folk tale, because they're just, these little dark moments will creep into this otherwise idyllic life that they've created, and you're like, there's comeuppance coming your way. Even though we don't want it to, because we love you and we love this little lamb, but you've done something you weren't supposed to, and so, and I love that there's just such a sleight of hand. You think you think you're following a specific story, and that's not the story they're telling at all. And anytime a filmmaker can get away with that, I'm always very impressed.
Yeah, and you could definitely look on it as a parable about man's arrogance against nature, and there is comeuppance. Yeah, and that is number one on our list of international folk horror, Lamb, from 2021 from Iceland. And as usual, we are up against the clock, so we got to get moving. We got a movie to show.
We got to tell a couple things.
Yeah, a couple things.
So next month, we're going to do the best horror from the 1930s, and we're going to show the utterly gorgeous film Vampire. Come back for that.
We always have at least one classic, I think, a year, and this one is clearly that. So that's the next Fright Club. But before that, we got a special event.
Yay!
If you didn't know,
Hope wrote a book.
Hope wrote a book. She's got her first novel coming out. It's called Roost. It's officially out on Tuesday.
Yep.
There are some pre-order books already arriving.
Alexander has his already.
Some people have them. So we're very excited, and we're going to have a launch here on the 30th. With you're going to read some passages from it.
Yep.
Sign some books. Hopefully
drink
sell
some
books. Drink some beers.
Yeah. Come out and do all those things with us.
And have a great time. So we'll put an event up either tonight or tomorrow on our Facebook page at Mad Wolf Columbus and keep you updated on socials. But we'd love to see you back here for that. Because it's a fun, especially if you like horror and what do you call it? Rural horror.
Yeah, coming of age. Rural
coming
horror,
of age. Yeah. So I think you'll like it. Especially get a few readings from it. That should be fun. So keep in touch if you can. You can find us not only on Facebook. The main website is madwolf.com, and also it's Mad Wolf Columbus on Instagram and Fright Club Pod on Twitter. And of course, we've got a Fright Club podcast private group on Facebook. So if you're not a member, we'd love to have you. Just send a request in, and we'll approve it very quickly. So all that fun stuff going on the socials. We've got a great movie. Remember, come down afterwards. We look because no one's seen it. We'd love to get your comments about the movie afterwards. Love to make you part of the podcast, which I should have live here in a few days, probably by Monday.
Yep.
So, all right, is that it?
I think that's everything.
All right, we got a movie to show. Until next time, then, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay right.